Hey guys, it's a beautiful day here in Fountain Inn, South Carolina, Zone 8, and I wanted to show you guys how I built this beautiful garden box planter at my parents' house. So I ended up building this garden box because my parents had a beautiful evergreen tree that got some sort of disease, I'm not exactly sure what, and they had to take it down. So unfortunately, when they took it down, then they lost all the privacy that the beautiful tree offered. So my mom and I came up with the idea of building somewhat what our raised beds look like. I'll show you a picture of that. They are 16 foot long, 2 feet deep, and 2 feet tall. And she thought to put some sort of trellis that offered a little more privacy. Our trellis has cattle panel, which we love because it's more see-through. So our garden, when you look at it from a distance, you can actually see through the entire garden, which we love. But in her case, she lost all that privacy. So we built this to have instant privacy. And then once she plants it up, she's going to plant it up with some beautiful evergreen plants. So for example, like some jasmine or some Carolina jessamine, which is in the jasmine family, but it's native in our area. And it does great. It blooms all winter long into the spring. Some beautiful like yellowish flowers. And then in the front of the garden box, then she can go ahead and deck it out with some beautiful like super tunias, hyperban winners, or just some beautiful plants that will spill over and create some drama. And before you know it, you won't even see that box. So right now it's raw. We didn't finish staining it or painting it, but I did just want to show you guys the box and the structure all the way until the soil itself. This project cost about $300 to build, which I would say is pretty good, given that that $300 includes all the wood, the plastic, and all of the soil that we got. So with that said, let's get into how we built it. Here's the area that my mom wanted some privacy. In this area, she made some benches using cinder blocks and timber, and then she also puts cushions on those when they're using it. And then there's a little fireplace that they have, or fire pit, I should say. This is where she wanted some privacy, and on the back side, where the road is, that's where people would see the flowers. So we went ahead and got the area prepped. My dad helped us to get the sod out, to put some plastic down. There was some ground cover in this area that we wanted to get rid of. And then also we wanted to lay the plastic down just so that it doesn't come back or any weeds try to get through. And later on, we added some more plastic inside the bed to protect the wood. I'll show you that later. So we laid out the long boards first, the 16-foot boards, and then we would attach the other boards that we would cut that are 2 feet long, just using 3-inch deck screws. Tip here is use the screws that have a star bit, not a Phillips head, because I use the ones with the Phillips head, and boy, they are not the best. They're annoying because they can strip easily. So we ended up getting about 5 2x12 by 16-foot boards, and then we got 9 2x4s, just all untreated pine. I don't know if I mentioned that already. If I did, there you go. Essentially, I built one bed at a time, and then later on, I just stacked them. So we built one at a time, moved it into the area, and then we tried to level that as much as possible by putting some of our soil, which is clay, underneath. And then also my dad found some bricks, so we stacked some bricks underneath just to get it as level as we could. And then we could start building the other bed and getting that bed on top of the second one. So once the boards were level and we stacked the second story on top, we took some of the 2x4s that we bought and cut them into a little less than 2-foot lengths. And then we put them in each corner of the raised bed. And then we screwed using 2.5 you could use, or 3-inch screws. If you do use 3-inch screws, make sure they don't poke out too far. That way, you know, when you're in there in the raised bed, digging and all that, you don't get cut with a screw sticking out. It just gives it a little more oomph. In the middle, we ended up taking a 2x12 board that was also 24 inches, and I attached that as well. And that holds the middle so that the boards don't bow out. And then what we ended up doing is I laid out my design for what we wanted the trellis to look like. At the moment, I had an idea, but I just wanted to make sure. Again, all of these are just 8-foot boards. You don't have to do much cutting if you do things in 8 feet, and dimensionally speaking. And then I laid another board in the front, you can see here, because that helped attach the trellis to it, and then it covers up the top. Gives it a little more of a trimmed look, and also it does help it be a little more structural. Especially when you have a 16-foot span, it does help it from kind of getting a little wobbly. So once I was happy with that, I screwed all of these pieces together using 3-inch screws. And then I only screwed about half a section first. We put that half a section up and then the other one. Don't screw everything together and then try to put it up because it does get a little wobbly and it's hard to kind of, maneuver. I ended up cutting the boards, the 2x4s on each side of that trellis, 6 feet long. And then the excess pieces, that's what I used for the inside of the raised bed. So not much waste here. The way we attached the trellis was through the back, and I just used 3-inch screws, not inside of the raised bed, but on the outside. And that was pretty simple. All I did was just line it up. I screwed it in, and then I did make sure that the trellis itself was somewhat level, so that to your eye it looks level. And then you can go ahead and attach the entire trellis. The lattice work, I did end up attaching it, and I actually put my mom to work because she wanted to learn how to use the nail gun. And I actually had her attach it with the nail gun. Now, I would recommend using either a staple gun like an automatic one. I have one, but I forgot to bring it. Or you could just use really short screws and attach it all over. You could also use pieces of wood that you lay out and then you screw through the wood into it as well and use the wood as trim. Many ways to attach this, but essentially that's what I did for ease and quickness. I used that nail gun and for now it's holding, but my mom's friend's actually going to help her and she has the staple gun that she can use to help secure it even further. So that is the trellis, that's the raised bed. After that, we went ahead and put some plastic on the inside of the raised bed. My mom had a good time with this, and I actually was making fun of her because she sews and loves to sew, and she was cutting that plastic as though she was sewing a project. She was so neat and tidy about it, and I told her, I'm like, just throw it in, it'll be fine. She's like, nope, it's got to be neat and tidy. All the seams have to be just right. So she was having fun stapling the inside of the raised bed with that plastic. And then what we did is we had some logs. We threw some logs in or branches, whatever we could find to help add some bulk so that we wouldn't need to use as much soil. You're more than welcome to fill up the whole thing with soil, but that's what we did. And then the next step is after we threw the logs in, then we put in our soil. We used a mix of topsoil and organic compost that we got from Lowe's. I would in the past recommend peat moss, but peat moss has gone up double if not triple in some areas in cost. So it's become very expensive. So for a decorative bed, this is what I would recommend to use for a soil mix. For a garden, raised bed garden in terms of like your veggies and more organic use, I would definitely opt for something else because you want just a richer compost. We get a local compost that we carry at our nursery and it's super high quality, and I mix that. I'll probably mix that with pine bark fines now that I can't find organic peat moss, or I can find it, it's just more expensive. But anyway, I would use a richer compost for my garden beds where I'm growing veggies. For the flowers, this one works well. It's a great growing medium. However, you're just gonna have to add a little more fertilizer and then eventually just keep topping it off with more compost on top. But it was just an inexpensive way to get organic materials in there because the flowers will need a lot of food to be beautiful all season long. So I bought 20 bags of the organic topsoil and 20 bags of the organic compost. I just mixed it half and half. We threw it in and mixed it all up. And then here you can see the texture just of this beautiful soil. It has such a fluffy mixture to it. Did hold moisture really well. Nutrient density, I don't know yet because I haven't tested this mixture fully yet. I've tested it in my landscape for a few things and it worked well. I've used the topsoil as a top dressing on my lawn to seed and it's worked really well. So I just haven't used it in a decorative garden box just yet, but I'm pretty sure it'll be just fine. And my mom does a great job with watering. She loves to water. It's her hobby. She loves to water plants. So I'm sure on the watering side, it'll all be fine. So you can see the project is still not quite complete. We have to again paint it and get it all done. And then in spring, we'll plant it. And then later in the season, we'll show you more of it. So I hope this project inspired you guys. Again, this isn't a fully finished product yet, but hopefully it inspired you guys to build something in your home and just to get your hands on dirt or in dirt and get your beds ready, because before you know it, we're gonna be just planting everything. And I know a lot of us are itching to plant all of our flowers and gardens and raise beds and everything, But now is the time to prep our soil and get everything ready, get our garden boxes ready. You can plant some perennials now and some cold tolerant things. At least in our area, we can plant quite a few things. Cold weather crops and things. Anyway, I digress. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.